Yeah, we welcome the head coach of the Salette program. Coach Vietri came to the school. This is his third year being here now. He came to discern a vocation, and he found that his vocation was to do strength and conditioning and to take over the varsity program. Apparently, I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but we are very grateful to have him. He coached as an assistant for me the 1 year that I headed up the program, and then seeing his natural aptitude for coaching as Anthony Carlisle breaks a long run, but it looks like they got his foot and they secured the ruck. Great aptitude for coaching, and likes rugby and is learning the game more and more each year. Helped a lot by Father Bevan, and the program's really coming into its own. Coach, what would you say as you sit here and we sit here and watch the freshman and sophomore? What would you say as you as head coach of the program are looking for from these guys today? What in their development? What are you looking for as your future varsity players?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so like you said, anything below our varsity level is development for us, and we've done a lot of work to really get these guys to understand that we care more about their skill development than about necessarily just them winning the games here. But
okay,
I want to see them. The biggest thing I want to see is these guys just go out there with some confidence and play. Right, a lot of these guys, they do things technically very well.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier, especially these younger guys, their ruck support is phenomenal. I mean, they just get to the ruck so quickly.
Yeah, I've heard the feedback from the varsity practice where they're the JV, they practice as well. As Father Bevan was telling me that it's one of the things they do sometimes even better than the varsity.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really good to have in practice to have the varsity guys having these guys to bang up against.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really good for the program to have the younger guys really push them in the practice, makes them a lot better. But I want to see these guys go out there and make decisions on their own. Right, there's always multiple decisions that can be made. Right, there's never one correct decision, and sometimes I think they get crammed into a box. And I think they have to do something. I have to make this decision. I have to pass the ball to this guy.
Yeah.
And to kind of get them to see the field and see all the options that are available to them and be able to make decisions on their own.
Yeah. Speaking of options, Bronner fields it in the backfield and tries to take the end around to the left, but the SLUH player takes him down. Salette maintains possession, comes out to the backs. Henry bets up the middle, and he loses the ball forward. That's going to be a scrum to the Billikens. How have you, Coach, now that we're entering into the third year of this feeder program, at the varsity level, so the guys that you do get, what are you seeing now from your seniors who won the state championship in Illinois with the Seaside under Coach Lanthier 2 years ago? How are you seeing that pay off now at the varsity level, that experience and that development that young?
I mean, what I would say is that a lot of them have experience playing in pressure scenarios.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so Fitzpatrick played in the state championship as a sophomore.
Yep.
Right, the first year I was here coaching with you on the JV.
Yeah, he's captain of that team.
Absolutely, and they have some experience playing in some tight games, and so we'll go play some of these big teams, and it's not the first time they've been there.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's kind of an intangible that's often overlooked in coaching. Right, there's the technical aspects. There's the we got to run our overs and our unders lines, and we got to run our set piece plays and our lineouts and whatnot. But something that's not often I think given enough credit is just that experience of being in pressure scenarios. Even the guys coming out of basketball season playing underneath Coach Rustio. Yeah. Right, like that intangible of just having been in certain environments.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. It's very noticeable when you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's still a human being who's got to execute the X's and O's, and
absolutely.
What's going on in between the ears is often a big factor.
Hardest thing to coach.
Yeah.
Hardest thing to coach.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very tough. It's challenging, at the lower levels to get them that experience because you can run practice all day for the little guys, but that's missing, and so being able to. To be able to play in the Illinois Seaside and to be able to get them those reps, I have to agree. It's what we've seen from the sidelines as well. That really paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially these guys, to get it through to them that they need to go out there, like I said before, make decisions and make mistakes and say, okay, hey, maybe I shouldn't have done this one here, or I didn't see these options here, and to be okay going for it and kind of coming up short.
Yeah,
that's a real learning experience.
Like they just did there. We saw some a little bit of flair though with the offloads. It It didn't amount to anything, but some what you would maybe say are a little bit riskier plays. Going down into contact, popping the ball up, trying to keep the defense on its heels. So you would say like something like that on the outside is something you'd like to see them trying to create a little bit and take play into their own hands.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to be able to take risks. I mean, you can't win games if you don't take any risks. If we just sit here and play it safe and just do things, I'll say quote unquote by the book, technically correct, without any risk taking, you can't win games.
Yeah, that reminds me of in coaching basketball. As Bronner takes it out the outside.
Well done.
Beautiful catch by
Marco
Cruz. Did he get it down? Oh, he knocked it on.
Knocked it just before there.
Pass is a little low from Bronner.
A little low, but even here, right? Now they're deep in their zone. They have an opportunity here, even though that's unlucky there from Cruz, right? Maybe should have been a try, but they need to keep the pressure on here now, right? We're deep in their zone. This is one of those moments where, hey, that's unlucky, but let's get the next one. Let's keep it on them here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, we're still in a great position.
Yeah, and so that knock on into the try zone by the offense gives the defense it's called the goal line drop. It's a drop kick from inside your own goal, and it favors the offense. Beautiful support from Bronner. There he goes. Oh, and he got a forward pass from Brogan. But still, playing with aggression.
Absolutely.
You'd love to see from Bronner there. He sees the play developing and goes and does something.
Yeah, he's really seeing the field
isn't just passive and someone else has the ball, so we'll let him do what he can, and then maybe I'll get involved later. Yeah, what you were saying about mistakes, it reminds me of something when I coached the JV basketball. It's this idea. It was actually the head coach for John Wooden when he played he was a famous coach from Purdue, weird name, Piggy Lambert. But he used to tell his teams that the team that makes the most mistakes wins. And now there's different kinds of mistakes, obviously. Of course, stupid mistakes, preventable mistakes means you lose games. But his point was that, the team that goes out there and plays with aggression and, takes the game into their hands, they're going to make mistakes because they're, putting themselves out there, but they're also most likely going to end up winning because they're playing with the most aggression and energy. Speaking of aggression and energy, Henry Betts, yes, takes the offload on the outside from some free play there. Right? The fullback goes into contact, offloads, and then another offload later. Henry Betts is free down the sideline for the try.
And you love to see that from the young guys, playing with a little bit of chemistry there, seeing the field, seeing where the space was. Right, we try to get these guys being able to see where the space is and exploiting that, and he did a great job there at doing that. But yeah, absolutely on the mistakes point, right? John Wooden, he's talking about this, and yeah, there's definitely different kinds of mistakes, right? Am I making mistakes because I'm playing timid and I don't want to drop the ball, or I don't want to make a bad pass and I'm losing focus, or things like this. That's different than, say, we're going for it like you described, right? We're taking the necessary risks in order to win, and okay, this one didn't work out. I remember watching a Super Rugby Pacific League, a championship game. I think it was from 2 or 3 years ago. And the team that was winning at halftime had a higher error rate, but they were dogging the other team. The other team just couldn't hang with them. They were absolutely dogging them. And so, they had more, more knock-ons and whatnot. But if you watch the game, it was because the pace they were playing at was blistering, and they were running all over the other team. And they end up winning by, I think, a couple of tries. The other team just couldn't hang with them the whole game. So that's Wooden's point on the mistakes is we have to take risks, and risk implies basically that sometimes it's not going to work out in your favor. But you got to keep playing through that.
Yeah, and that's another. We're kind of touching in a bit on the mindset front here, which I know you've been doing a lot of work with that with the boys. But and again, from my own experience in basketball, we end up talking about this a lot. But guys they'll get so in their head they'll be paralyzed to and worried about making mistakes. And if they make a mistake, it's like that's the end of it. And we talk about it's like, guys, like like Steph Curry shoots 40% from three, like the greatest three-point shooter of all time. That means he misses 6 out of 10. Like do you really expect to go out into the arena, like to go out between the lines, whatever sport it is, and have only good things happen? Like that's absurd.
That's crazy.
Like even the best players, like baseball, you hit 300, you're in the Hall of Fame. Like there's like bad things happening are baked into it, and you've got to mentally be able to handle that. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all, but I know you work with the mindset, and that's definitely like a big issue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even to go back to a baseball example, right? Like even a pitcher that throws a perfect game. I mean, there's undoubtedly a couple of plays in that game where his fielders made fantastic plays because he threw a bad pitch. Great catches or whatnot. I mean, at some level, he threw a ball in one of the at-bats, right? So he didn't, perfect is maybe not a totally accurate term. Right? But yeah, I try to get the boys to understand, right, you making the mistakes, and sometimes they get frustrated, and what happens is they shut off.
Okay.
They shut off, they shut down. Instead of using, usually what I say to them is, that frustration, that little bit of anger, right, you got an energy boost to now overcome the mistake in the next play, and to use that effectively. It's a huge point, and what I notice is really simply just that. They often shut off when they make mistakes. And that they have to be able to play through that and use to their advantage. I mean, if you can imagine a team that every single time they made a mistake, they started to play a little bit harder, that's a really hard team to beat.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, and to change gears a little bit here, Salo Cruz with the offload. There's your flare you're talking about. Andrew Sick picks it up, brings it back inside, and he offloads like we know he's going to do.
Well done.
Outside to McDonald.
Hit it. Great.
He fakes it, and he's in the try zone.
Fantastic play there. Fantastic series of play.
The PA announcer is commenting on Salo's one-handed offloads.
Maybe a little cheeky from Salo Cruz, but it worked out in this favor.
Hey, we'll take it. None of that works without support.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you saw, by the time McDonald got into the try zone there, he had another 3 guys he could have passed to, but he didn't need to. That's just excellent support from the freshmen and sophomores.
Pick from him there to take it in himself. And that to me, we play a game in practice called AFIs where, what I just saw in that series of play, that's essentially how we put them in, small-sided games, and they play like that, little offloads. If you get tackled, it's a turnover, right, to try to get them to work exactly what you just saw there. Offload, supporting, not going to ground, keeping the ball alive, trying to just keep the pace and the pressure on the other team, and that's a great series of play. That's really good to see.
Yeah, shifting gears a little bit before we get into halftime, do you have any instant reaction to the big game against St. Thomas Aquinas that the varsity just played, losing 7-0? I mean, we had our, we have our comments and analysis as we broadcast to try to give a little bit of insight. But we have the coach here. What's the takeaway for the team?
The biggest takeaway for me was that they just came out flat. And they ran out of time in the end there. So in the second half, they really turned it on. They really started to apply a lot of pressure to them. And I think we saw a big change in the momentum of the game once the boys started to do that. And I mean, basically what I said to the boys was just that you came out flat, and if you had come out hitting hard from the beginning, I think that's a totally different game. Obviously, it's a good game, right? A close loss to a very good program. I think St. Thomas Aquinas was at 6th in the rankings just before coming into this weekend. So it's a good program, but I think they proved in that second half that they could play with them. And the biggest thing for me was they just didn't turn it on until the second half. And at some level, if you only play a half, then what can you do?
What did you see from the back line, which was largely reworked coming into this game? A lot of guys in new positions. Now, granted, there are a lot of guys who can play all those positions, but I know Liam Bentz playing at the varsity level at fly half was a big change for the first time. What's your takeaways from that?
Yeah, I thought he did really well at fly half. I think he kept the ball maybe a bit too much, right? Not getting the ball out to the rest of the back line. But he was trying to exploit gaps, coming straight off the ruck that he saw there. Kind of got jammed up a few times, but he played hard. Even he's man of the match for that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was man of the match for that game.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I thought it was a good first game for him at fly half. He sees the field very well, probably the best of anybody on our team. He just sees weaknesses in the other team and understands how to exploit and exploit them. I would say better than anybody else. That's why we put him at fly half.
So do you think he'll be staying there for the foreseeable future? Or?
For the foreseeable future, I
mean, we never know, but what's that?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, I think he'll be staying there. Like you said, we moved a lot of guys around, try to see, what chemistries work the best, what guys work very well together. But the fact that they can all slide into different positions is a huge perk for them.
Yeah, so I do want to ask you that question, and we were talking about this a little bit on the broadcast, just about about that fact that some of those guys were in new positions. What's the logic there as a coach? Because it could maybe be argued that, hey, you want guys to get, as Andrew's sick, looks like he's going in for another try here. Doesn't even need to offload it. Very good work out of that ruck there for the
he's done very well at outside center.
Yeah, so my question is, what is the logic there? What are you looking for, as opposed to maybe the school of thought that would say, put a guy in a position and keep him there so he can learn the position and grow and really, be like a great fly half, for instance, instead of if he's kind of in and out or inside center, outside center, any of those things. You seem as a coach, you and Father Bevan seem to move guys around more rather than stick them in one position. What's the thought behind that?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that, as we move farther on down the season, that shifting around will certainly become less.
Okay. So it's kind of more of a preseason-ish, like in the early season friendlies, kind of trying to see where things settle and what the best options are.
Absolutely, but you also never know what's going to happen. So, for example, Lewis Dittman, we had him at 12, and he's out for this game, right?
Okay.
So somebody else has to slide into a different position. We actually had planned on playing him with the forward pack for this weekend.
Okay.
And then obviously he took an injury during practice, but you see it a lot. Even at the professional level, guys will play fly half, and another game they're in at 15. Guys will be playing scrum half, and then another game he's in at 8.
Okay, yeah.
Right, and so guys can slide around and play in these different positions, even if one is, we'll say their main position.
Yep.
They have the skill set to be able to move somewhere else. And
and with rugby, so the horn goes, but it's the ref's time, so this will play out. Oh,
yes, good play.
And he knocks it on. Can you get to it before it goes out? Oh, and the ball goes out of bounds. Sloslow is playing advantage there, which is why they kicked, and they're going back to take that penalty. Yeah, and I think, would you say that, for, I don't know, put a percentage on it, 70, 80% of rugby is, it's not those, it's not those set pieces where, you're too position specific. If you talk about like a lock, well, a lock is only a lock because of what he does in the scrum. Like the rest of the time when they're out here playing, like, it's a lot of the same thing from every player.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the positions are only really specified in certain, set pieces.
And
it would seem, sorry to cut you off, it would seem that the more that a guy can do everything, if you have a team of guys who can do everything, you're going to be much better.
Yeah, definitely. Even off of the set pieces, we talk about principles of play, and we'll talk about a couple of them. I've talked about one already. Is just finding the space. So often the space is on the outside of the field, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's there, right? They might leave a gap in their back line, 12, 13 channel, and so we're going to exploit that space. And so if our set piece is to say, we run a loop with the 10 and the 12, and then they run a switch, but the 10 has a huge gap in that, between that 10-12 channel. Well, he shouldn't just run the set piece when the space is right there, right? He's going to exploit that. That play just gives you, a framework to operate off of, and then you play within that. You kind of have guardrails, so to speak, and then, within that play. And some of the boys, they struggle with that, right? We have to run the set piece exactly this way, and that's not the case. That's not accurate. And so, and then another principle would be just to apply pressure. It sounds very simple, but you can do that in a variety of ways. Quick rucks or kicks, right? To have them have to feel the kick, right?
Make the defense uncomfortable,
with guys, running onto them at pace. And so, like I said, from any one situation, there's multiple options. There's multiple right answers, and to get them to understand that and to exploit that effectively is a difficult task. But I think we've seen in the Seaside here do a very good job of that.
Yeah, it seems to be a productive far for them.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach. Well, it's been great to have you on. I'd love to keep peppering you with questions here, but I think you have to go prepare for your second game of the day against James back over at the main field. So we'll let you go here. And as La Salette goes into halftime against SLUH JV up 29-0, we'll take a break just for a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere, and I'll be back with our main announcer, Elijah Hall, in a couple.
Thank you.
Father.